So my typical preparation would be I used to wake up in the morning. I used to study 3-4 hours quants on my own. I feel like English is a subject as you converse you get better, and as you practice more and more you get better. There were points where I was really demotivated due to my mock scores or I was not able to solve a question. But the thing was, I came back home after attending 5-6 months of CMI, and then when I came back, I was at my lowest point in my life. I didn't know what to do, where to go.
Imagine preparing for a year, writing the exam of your life, and missing your dream college by just 1 mark. Most people break there. Today's guest did not. He bounced back and converted almost every other IIM. Welcome to the Rodha IPMAT Podcast. Real journeys, real struggles, no sugarcoating. Today, we have Ainesh Das, currently part of the first IPM batch at IIM Shillong. Scored 239 marks in IPMAT Indore, AIR 34 in JIPMAT, and had offers from multiple IIMs. But what makes this story special is not the scores, it's the decisions and the setbacks behind them. Welcome, Ainesh. Glad to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
So, Ainesh, you got into Chennai Mathematical Institute, as you told earlier, which is a dream for many mathematics students, right? But you chose to leave it. What did you see or feel there made you realize this is not my path?
So my story was something like I gave in 12th class, I gave the CMI entrance exam as well as JEE. JEE I did not succeed, but in CMI, and I had real passion in maths. So I gave those exams, got into CMI, was really happy that I would pursue maths. But then somewhere I realized after like 4-5 months that this course is really hard or not what aligns with my interest. And then I started to look search for new options. And with the help of my mom and parents, of course, landed across a gateway to get into an IIM after class 12 immediately, and I was really happy, and I felt that this was the right choice for me because as a person I love humans, talking to people, and I felt that being a manager or something like that will really help me elevate my status as well as boost my confidence and give me a good career path. So I eventually left CMI and started preparing for IPMAT.
That's great. But Ainesh, I'll be a bit blunt in asking you this. Was that decision more driven by that clarity or discomfort? Because sometimes we leave something not because it's wrong, but probably because it's hard.
Yeah, that I would say it is a mix of both, but a majority part it was of discomfort because I didn't feel course was too hard for me. But at the same time, I realized that maybe this is not what I thought of this course to be, and I was really in a state where I couldn't decide what to do next because continuing this course was not my interest, and at the same time I had no other options. JE wasn't an option because I didn't like chemistry and physics, to be honest. Yeah. So then I came across something like IPMAT, which actually I felt that that's my calling there.
And that's nice, in fact. Understand, of course, you tend to make a lot of decisions which later on give you some discomfort. But at the same time, it's very important to understand if you feel misaligned with what you've thought earlier. It's always good to make the decisions to make it better,
Yeah.
right? And I'm really happy that you chose to do so. You went on to leave that college, and since you mentioned your interest lied in management side of things, so here you are sitting in the IIM Shillong campus right now, and of course, as you say for Shillong campus in the clouds. So I'm really happy that you're there, and I'm hoping that you're enjoying the entire curriculum, your life there at IIM Shillong.
Yes, truly. It was a tough choice to make, but I don't regret it.
Okay, okay, that's great. So let's talk about your drop year ones. Most aspirants think a drop year automatically improves performance. But at the same time, I believe mentally it can be very, very heavy. So, what was the toughest part of your drop year that people usually don't talk about?
So my drop year was a kind of a partial drop. So I came back home after attending 5-6 months of CMI, and then when I came back, I was at my lowest point in my life. I didn't know what to do, where to go. My all my friends had gone to other colleges, and I was at a state where I had a choice either to do IPMAT or continue the same thing, which was not interesting for me. But there were points where I used to give mocks at the start. When I used to give a mock, I had like 60 or 50 score in VA. That was very low, and I thought that this is IPMAT is also not for me. There were points where I was really demotivated due to my mock scores, or I was not able to solve a question. But the thing was, I stayed consistent and did my job day by day. Daily, I put efforts. I used to do VARC. I was really weak in English, so that was my toughest challenge to face because I didn't read books a lot. But now coming across VA and actual English, which was actually hard for me, and I used to practice it daily. So that's what helped me during my preparation. And there were phases in my preparation where I was totally broken, but I used to listen to my mom. I used to watch motivation on YouTube, and I had this. I had my fair share of happiness as well as sadness.
You studied quant for 4-5 hours daily and verbal with your mother. That's not a typical prep setup, right?
Yeah. So my typical preparation would be I used to wake up in the morning. I used to study 3-4 hours quants on my own. I used to solve problems, figure out what if I don't get the answer. I used to again solve it. And then after that, before lunch, I used to solve only quants. Then after lunch, I used to sit with my mom and study for verbal ability. She used to help me out. We used to watch different lectures in the YouTube. We used to study different books, and we together improved my verbal ability.
So, like, what exactly did those verbal sessions with your mother look like on a daily basis? And what do you think, and why do you think, in fact, that worked better than anything else or better than studying alone?
I feel like English is a subject as you converse, you get better. And as you practice more and more, you get better. And when I used to sit and study English at the start, it was not really effective because I used to just mug up those words and mug up those meanings. But when I used to actually sit with another person and used to get their insights as well as put my insights, used to study, make notes, and as well as discuss things, and she may have different thoughts, I may have different thoughts, so we used to sit together, we used to put effort together. She used to help me out when I had a doubt, and then she used to ask me those English meanings. And there was a lot of help from my mom's side, and my dad is really good in English, so he used to ask me to sit with him and read newspapers. So all of that combined, it helped me improve my English, and in a fun way. I didn't have to actually cram things.
Right. In fact, of course, when you said keep you're extremely good at quant, but weak at verbal. So, having said whatever you said about your preparation and how you prepared for verbal, if we had to break it down for the students, right? So, what exactly makes verbal difficult? So, is it lack of habit or lack of patience or something else?
Verbal is something that builds from a childhood. You can't just cram something and then in an exam get good marks. It's more about how you converse daily. What's your level of English aptitude? Like, do you know exactly the words, when to use what, and how to use it, how to converse? Like, I was from a background where I used to just mug up English, so I was never good at it, although I didn't speak in English in my home. So English is built due to habits. It's not something that just happens in one day. We say the proverb, Rome was not built in a day. Similar with English as well as quants. So English is something that comes naturally to you, and at the same time, as you practice more, get more meaning, solve books like Word Power Made Easy or Arun Sharma or whatever, you get to experience more and more new words, and then at the same time your vocabulary gets, it boosts your vocabulary.
That's great. Yeah. In fact, that is what happens. People think verbal ability might only be, or these kind of subjects in these competitive exams are only about intelligence, but I always believe that there's something more to it in terms of exposure and discussion. So having that partner in your mother for your preparation, I believe must have gave your preparation a good boost.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And you also mentioned earlier that in the last 2 months you are giving mocks almost daily, and most of the students give mocks but they don't improve. So according to you, what does actual mock analysis look like? Like, what should someone do in the 2-3 hours after a mock?
So I used to give a mock. When I used to sit for a mock, I used to think that it's a real time, it's a real exam that is taking place, and this is the last exam. This is actually the final exam. I used to think like that, and I used to give the mock. Then with a whole dedication, and used to sit for 3 hours without even going out once. And then once I used to get the mock scores, I used to evaluate it. Like, I used to first start with the quants. What question did I actually do wrong? I used to put more effort in that. And at the same time, I used to see the unattempted questions. Like, could I have done this question? Could I have solved this question in less time? What is the best method? I used to see every question. Either I get it wrong or right. Because if I get a question right, I may have solved it in some method. But the given method, the answer will be much more in an efficient way. So I used to analyze every single problem. I used to go through verbal ability with my mother, as I said. I used to see why which answers are right and why which is wrong. So as I was giving mock test, I was realizing that also I was realizing time management, because that's important. At the end of the day, you don't have a IPMAT is a very like time management exam. You have to make the most efficient use of your time, and by giving more and more mocks and analyzing where you could have actually used your time, it helps. So my goal in MCQ section was to, like, there were 30 questions in MCQ section. My goal was to solve 20. If I solve 20, I'm set. 20, more than 20 is also good, but less than 20, no chance. I have to solve 20 questions. Similarly, in verbal ability, I had the same strategy about, let's say I will do this first, this later, parajumbles first, comprehension later. I used to have a strategy. So analyzing those questions and at the same time building a strategy helps, because in the final exam you don't have time.
No, that's true. In fact, since you mentioned that, again, you took every mock as the last one. That it's a
Yes.
final exam, right? So let's move to and let's talk about that D-Day examination. You enter the exam hall after months of preparation. In that moment, what is actually louder? That confidence from your months of preparation, or that fear of failure, that what will happen in case you panic, you stress out? In fact, I think from your experience, you mentioned earlier that your quant section also went really well, but verbal didn't feel right, especially with the pattern change. So
Yes.
when things don't go as expected in the middle of the examination, how do you stop panic from affecting the rest of your paper?
Okay, so my D-Day experience was really like one, everyone needs to hear this. It's one for the ages. So I entered in the examination hall. I was really nervous and at the same time confident. At the same time, I was nervous a bit because this was my last shot at getting into IIMs. Otherwise, it was my last shot. So I went to the examination hall. I sat there, talked someone beside me. We talked a bit, and then the exam started. And when I gave the essay section, I was really confident that I did well. I did almost 12 to 13 questions. I was really happy. Then I moved on to MCQ. MCQ was a bit tricky, but my quants was like I had prepared it decent enough, not flexing, but yeah, decent enough, and I did 20 questions. Then came verbal. Once I entered verbal, when I saw the questions that I had thought were not there and the pattern change, I was shattered. I didn't know what to do, and I just spent my first 5 minutes trying to understand. I was literally crying inside, and I was thinking, what could I do? Months of preparation, and I've come down to this. But then slowly I gathered up courage, and I decided to do patiently, go question by question, go in a sequence. I had to actually break my strategy. Earlier, my strategy was really different, but in the D days, since the pattern changed, I also had to change my strategy. And I started to do questions one by one. Then I started feeling a bit more confident. Some questions I couldn't answer. Para jumbles, I didn't answer a single question because they were so confusing, and in that environment, I couldn't solve a single question. But rest of them I solved. I para jumbles I had practiced a lot, but I couldn't solve it. And rest of them I solved. I again checked. In the end of the moment, I had this one question where either I could actually put the answer or I could leave that question. And guess what? I actually put the answer. And in the final result, my score was like 48 in essay, 80 in MCQ, and 111 in VA. And the cutoff for verbal ability in IIM Indore to get into the interview was 1112. It was just 1 mark. And hadn't I just, if I had left that question, I would have been in Indore today because my marks was so high. So that feels that when I reflect onto that, that feels a bit like a mistake I made. But coming here in IIM Shillong, I don't regret that mistake anymore.
That's great, yeah. In fact, hearing that last minute, last question experience, I'm very keen on asking you this question. Of course, now that you know that the difference was 1 mark only.
Yeah.
However, if you have to relive that moment again, would you still attempt it or leave it?
Had I known the cutoffs, I would have left it honestly. But yeah, there is sometimes that thing of greed that comes in, that you have to attempt more questions to get. more answers correct. So in an alternate universe, I might have not. I might have chosen not to do that question, but I'm not regretting it now. Now I'm here.
Right. No, in fact, as you mentioned that missing out on Indore cutoff by just 1 mark and having another interview the next day.
Yes.
Honestly, how do you even show up mentally after that?
Yes, so the story was like when the Indore results came, after that, just after that day, I had my Rohtak interview and I was really shattered. I was crying to my parents, talking with them. They tried to console me, they tried to tell me that whatever God does it for good. And a lot of stuff, we talked a lot. I didn't even prepare for the interview the next day. I had gone to Delhi myself. That was my first trip ever for my IIM Rohtak interview. That was my first solo trip, and I was really nervous. But at the same time, when this happened, I was completely shattered. I slept. I didn't eat food that day. It was very like one of the lowest points in my life. Missing out on Indore when I was 100% confident after response sheet that I would get in. So, but then after that moment, when next day came, I was again smiling. I had to show up because at the end of the day, IIM Rohtak is also an IIM, so I had to get in. So I just gave it my best shot, regardless of what happened the day before. And eventually, I converted IIM Rohtak in the first list. So I'm really happy that I converted IIM Rohtak even when I had a lowest point in my life just the day before.
And you eventually ended up converting multiple IIMs, not just IIM Rohtak,
Yes,
right?
not just
So
IIM
looking
Rohtak.
back, do you think that missing that IIM Indore actually changed your trajectory in a better way?
Yes, it actually motivated me to do better. The day I didn't get into IIM Indore, I was further motivated to crack other IIMs. I started preparing for interviews a lot. Otherwise, if I would have gotten into IIM Indore interview, I would have taken a chill pill, relaxed a bit. But that surely acted.
But now that you are in IIM Shillong, part of the very first IPM batch there. So let's talk about that a bit. What is that one thing about the IIM life? Of course, we talked about IIM Indore, we talked about IIM Rohtak, we talked about IIM Shillong. Again, right? That IIM Tech comes with its own set of expectations, right?
Yes.
So, what is that one thing that you have observed in past few months that no YouTube video or any brochure tells you?
I think the experience of being here, getting to see new people, new faces with new ideas is what motivates me. I've come across people from different backgrounds and different like commerce backgrounds, different states. And when the diversity comes in the class, you have different ideas, different thoughts. And at the same time, you see people like you see we are at the top of our class, but then we see all these toppers together, and then we feel the heat of the competition. That's something that no YouTube lecture can tell. Friendship, the bonds that we form together, that's what makes it special. And not just having an IIM tag, but at the same time, it's more about the experience. I feel like IIM culture is something that one should experience in his or her life. It's that good. The rigorous classes, at the same time the sports, the events, the fests, even the mess food to some extent. It's not that great, but yeah, you need to experience it once. It's not just about any college, but it's about that rigorous pressure that you have, and at the same time you have your moments to chill. So all that combined, when combined, gives you a great experience. That's what is I loved about IIM Shillong.
That's nice here. In fact, like having that motivation clubbed with the experience that you get around in terms of your academics, your rigor in academics, your peers, your networking, and at the same time having that pressure of comparison among the toppers that you see, being a topper yourself earlier, but being in a pool of toppers, seeing toppers all around. I
Yeah.
think that's a great package to have from a B school from an IIM that of course no YouTube video can tell you about. Experiencing that on campus, be it any campus, I think is a different feeling altogether.
Yes, true.
In fact, Ainesh, shifting the attention, the focus a bit from IIM Shillong to Rodha, you mentioned earlier that you watched some of the Rodha videos also earlier during your preparation. Can you tell our viewers a bit more about it?
So I have been using Rodha IPMAT channel, YouTube channel, as well as Rodha's materials for the past during my preparation, and they were really comprehensive and at the same time very precise and to the point and relevant to what's coming in the exam. They help in PYQs. They help me during PYQs how to solve, how to have different approaches, how to tackle English. comprehensions. They give some really important and insightful tips, and at the same time, having those last minute one shots and revisions, that helps a lot. And I feel like Rodha IPMAT is something that actually adds value in an aspirant's journey for IIM. And at the same time, I feel that other coachings do, but Rodha does it a bit differently. They try to create an actual, like, they try to create an actual experience about what is happening. They try to bring in students from different IIMs and they help students. So, and I was one of them who was watching those videos last year. So I think that Rodha is in all a good package to actually use during your IPMAT preparation.
And in fact, as you earlier mentioned that you were decently well at least in quant,
Yes.
but struggled a bit with VRC. Of course, you had your mother helping you out in your preparation, but for VRC, anything that you liked about Rodha or you prepared?
Yes, for VARC, I used to watch Brijesh sir's lectures on YouTube, and it was really nice. And he actually taught it in a different way, which I actually adored. Because when I used to solve comprehensions, or I used to solve passages or something at a very different approach. But he then taught us very different and new approach to how to actually look at things in VARC, how to solve problems, how to tackle with options when don't know the meaning of the word. So all those things that are actually important and insightful for your exam is relevant, and that he teaches. And even for quants, I have like used for one shot revisions, I used Rodha's videos. So I think they were also relevant, because very similar type of questions actually came in the actual IPMAT exam. So yeah, it helps.
All right, that's nice. And Ainesh, if someone is preparing for IPMET right now and they're feeling lost or inconsistent, what is that one brutally honest advice you would like to give them? Not motivational, but actually practical.
Yeah, so first you give as many mocks as possible. Second, try to revise your theory as well as possible. And at the end of the day, you have to analyze your mistakes and learn from them, because making mistakes is absolutely fine. It's more about learning from them and actually preparing yourself for it in a time bound settles area. Because at the end of the day, IPMAT is a very time management heavy exam. You need to focus as much as possible, read the question really properly, and then solve it. And just be consistent, do your work daily. Like, just don't hesitate to put in effort. That's it. That's some motivation. That's not motivation bullshit, but that's what actually helped me. So just put in the regular work. You can have your play hours, you can have your chill hours. It's not like you have to do IPMAT the entire day. But at the end of the day, IPMAT is not just an exam where you have to actually cram things, but how you apply your concepts. Focus more on application, solve more books, get to talk with people outside of your, like, join with other people who are actually preparing for IPMAT, join a community, and then you will have success naturally coming towards you.
That's such a great piece of advice, Ainesh. I think well put about the practicalities of how the preparation journey should be and how you can actually get a lot of help from your communities, from different communities, from your peers. So that's really great. So from leaving CMI to missing Indore just by 1 mark to converting multiple IIMs, this journey is a reminder that one result never defines you. So thanks a lot, Ainesh, for joining us today, for having this honest conversation. It was very lovely to have this conversation with you, hearing about your insights from your preparation journey, how you navigated through the entire journey yourself alone with the help of your mother and many other coaching institutes, many other preparatory material, and finally getting into what is called campus in clouds. You are literally in the heaven right now. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It was really a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you.
And if you are an aspirant right now preparing for these examinations, stay consistent because your comeback might just be one step away, like it was for Ainesh. And if this conversation with Ainesh helped you even a bit, do like and share and subscribe to Rodha IPMAT channel. We'll be coming up with more such exciting and honest and raw conversations with a lot of aspirants, with a lot of people who have been through that journey before. Thank you so much for joining us today. Goodbye. See you in the next one.